What do you do in a post-truth landscape where the news is a fucking mess and the facts don't matter? You still have to try and present the truth and the facts in a responsible way, but it becomes more important than ever to also have story be a central component to the content that you're putting out there. Riot is comprised of filmmakers and journalists and humanitarians and non-traditionalists. We've never been afraid of taking a stance and providing a call to action. And we're not afraid to utilize new technology to tell a better story. We launched Riot to be the first news site that linked every single story to an action that the reader could take. We launched on the day that Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast. We found this guy who had lost his home in the fire on Breezy Point. His name is Timmy, he's a surfer, and filmed a short documentary about him.
To see just concrete foundation of where my house used to be, I really didn't know what to do, so I just started digging.
He was an incredible vehicle for the story of the storm itself. Instead of just posting the statistics, how many people died, how many people lost their homes, you had one individual character that you could relate to on a human level.
Board's somewhere over there, I'm not sure. You know, I'm still looking for it, but, you know, like I say, my mother's things are more important than my things, so it is what it is.
But we noticed very quickly in the span of 48 hours of reporting on this disaster that, all due respect to the Associated Press and Reuters, but those weren't the stories that were getting people to take action. People were pressing donate on the stories that we were infusing with humanity. We always blurred the lines between journalism and activism, and we would get pushback a lot from traditional journalists who would say that we weren't practicing objective journalism. That was never the point. We set out to be a site that moved people from passive reader or viewer into active participant. We were always trying to figure out how to cut through the noise, and we experimented a ton with new technology. Also running through a lot of things that didn't work, right? Like, we were very bullish on Periscope and on Google Glass, all as a way to try and tell stories differently. And that led us into VR.
Welcome to Aleppo.
One of the pieces that impacted the way I think about information the most was actually the piece that we brought out of Aleppo. For some reason, 250,000 headlines weren't enough. It wasn't until I put on a headset, looked around the streets of Aleppo, that I fully realized the scope and the scale of the crisis. It became tangible. It felt almost like we had hacked the system a bit. We had made something that was important, interesting, and compelling enough that people were taking off the headset in tears. The more readily information is available to us, in some ways, the more unavailable emotion is, and emotional storytelling will be. And the more reliant we are on technology, the better able we're going to be as creators to tap into something emotional. What we're so excited about and why staying nimble has been so important is we just need to figure out a way of telling stories when all of these distribution mechanisms change radically every 5 years. How do you cut through the noise when people's screens and how they interact with them are completely different than they were just a year or so ago? And that is a super interesting moment for a storyteller because I think it increases the value of storytelling. It all comes down to how are you going to connect to the human that's across the world from you, as well as the human who's right next to you. And technology should enable that. The promise of technology is that it will enable that, but the technology itself is agnostic. figure out how it can be used as a vehicle for emotional connection, and you have something super exciting on your hands.